Okay, we're up to Lamed Beis, Amid Beis. 4 or 5 lines up from the bottom. So we saw yesterday, we began the new parak, that there was various ways a person can be mevatel a get. If he sends a shliach, he could go after the shliach. He could send the shliach to go after the shliach. He can go to the woman. He could send the shliach to go to the woman. Once the get is given, then it's too late. We said initially a person would go to Bezdin. And he can go ahead, even the Bezdin is in another locale, and the shliach was sent. He'd be able to go ahead and be mevatel the shliach and Bezdin. But Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin, if they tikkun olam, if they tikkun olam, he instituted that you cannot go ahead and go to another Bezdin and be mevatel. So that's the sugya we're going to see today. How many does a person have to be mevatel? How many people does have to be mevatel in front of? Rav Nachman Amar b'fnei Beis, in front of 2 people. Rav Sheshes Amar b'fnei Gimel. Rav Sheshes says in front of 3. Rav Sheshes Amar b'fnei Gimel, Bezdin Katani, because it says, Rishayna initially, Oisim Bezdin, they would go ahead and make a Bezdin, and therefore they would, a Bezdin is 3 people. That's the minimal of Bezdin. Rav Nachman Amar b'fnei Gimel Beis, because the Beit Trey Nami Bezdin correlate, because 2 are called Bezdin. Yes, because this is, in fact, you don't need a psak over here. The reason you need 3 people for psak and Bezdin, we say Achrei Rab Lahatles. We say that you go after Roiv. In order to create a Roiv, you always need an odd number. But over here, there's not a psak over here. You're not going after Roiv. Here, it's simply you're being idea. You're going and informing somebody of something, right? Over here, you're simply informing somebody of something, what the status is. And therefore, it would be enough to go ahead and be Moedia in front of what? In front of 2 people. Therefore, it would be enough to go ahead and be Moedia in front of 2 people. So that's the machloikas. Again, we're up to Lamed Beis, Lamed Beis at the bottom. How many people constitutes the Bezdin? According to Shteshis, it's 3. According to Rabbi Nachman, even 2 would suffice. Amrav Nachman, no mean Allah. How do I know that 2 would sugfice, that 2 are a Bezdin, that none. We're learning regarding a Plusbul. We're going to see this Beis Hashem later in this parak, exactly the sugya of Plusbul. Misrani lefnechem, I'm give over in front of you, Ploni hadayonim, shebemakam Ploni. So it says Ploni hadayonim, bemakam Ploni. Ploni is 1, a second Ploni is 2. They're called dayonim in a certain place, so you see that 2 would constitute a Bezdin. So too, the Indian team mevatel get in front of a Bezdin of 2 would suffice. Rav Sheshes, who says you need 3, what does he do with the raya of Rav Nachman? Atu Tana kuruchla l'chashav v'lezel. Is the Tana a peddler that constantly has to do it? In other words, he mentioned 2 who are then l'chora. It means 3. You know, it's just a way that they always speak in very concise manners. He said they always speak in a very, very concise manner. That's what we're used to. They speak in such a concise manner, so they mentioned 2, but it's lav dafka 2, because really a Bezdin has to be 3, and therefore in this situation, the fact they mentioned 2 does not limit it to 2, but even will be 3, because we're just speaking in a concise manner. Again, how many of them mevatel machloikis? Rav Sheshes says there's 3. Rav Nachman says 2. I'm Rav Nachman. No amin Allah. Again, another attempt. How do you know that 2 dayanim would suffice in order to go ahead and inform of the nullification of a get? Ditnan. Hadayanim choismin. The dayanim choismin lamata oya edim. The dayanim, they go ahead and they, on a principle, they go ahead and they sign below, or edim. My lav dayanim dumya de edim. Ma edim shnayim af dayanim nami shnayim. And therefore you have a raya that what 2 would suffice. Rav Sheshes, midi area, how could you say no? Dayanim are 3, and then Eidim are 2. You're not locked into saying that they're both the same, that 2 and 2. Einachinami, Eidim are 2, but Dayanim have to be 3. So Lamali the Mr. Dayanim, Lamali the Mr. Eidim. Why do you have to learn both of them? The lo shna kosav b'lashon Dayanim. If the Puzbul is written the lashon Dayanim, like Rashi says, that we were dayanim and was sitting, and Ploni came and gave over the shtar, the chosmi edim. Loishna kosta b'lashon edim. Rashi says that with the edim they were sitting there, and the dayanim signed. It does make a difference. Okay, bottom line is there's no raya to Rav Nachman. His raya is upshlag, but that's the machlokes. How many edim, how many dayanim do you need to inform that the get is nullified? Rav Nachman holds 2, and Rav Sheshes holds 3. Okay, and we said Rav Gamliel Zakin did away with this, fellas. He said, in other words, if you want to be mavatal a get, you're going to have to send a shliach, or yourself, you're going to go. But to have the easy way out to go ahead and be mavatal the get, that is not in front of a bezdin in another locale. In other words, you wake up in the morning, you sent the shliach of 2 days ago. It's going to take him a week to get to where your wife is located, and you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to bezdin and mavatal the get. Rabbi Gamliel Zakin did away with that very easy way to mavatal a get. But machlokes is what the tikkun olam is. You know, it's tikkun olam means that something very corrupt could come out of this, and to avoid that corruption, and this is going to bring into many other sugyas of tikkun olam. We're going to, as we'll see in this parak. Rabbi Yochanan, what's the tikkun olam? Rabbi Yochanan takonis mamzerim. The takonis mamzerim. Reish Lakish Amar takonis igunas. The Gemara explains. Okay, one Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan takonis mamzerim. Reish Lakish takonis igunas. Rabbi Yochanan mafnei takonis mamzerim. Saba look Rav Nachman. He holds that the bezdin that you inform is like Rav Nachman is only 2 people. The Amar b'fnei shnayim who betray less like color. And 2 people, if you inform him, the matter does not get publicized. So what's going to happen? He goes ahead and sends a get. He's going to go to 2 dayanim and say the get is puzzle. The shlichus is batal. There's no publication to the matter. The shliach will continue and do his job, and he'll go ahead and give the get. The lo shama v'lo yada. She didn't hear that the get was done away with. And what is she going to do? The Oslo Mitzvah. She's going to go get married and have children. The Ikam Mamzerim, and you'll have Mamzerim. So Rabbi Yochanan goes in line with the Amoyer of Nachman, the latter Amoyer of Nachman, that you only need 2 in order to go ahead and be Mavatal a get. Now, out of this can come out a very, very terrible thing. A tikkun, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Gamliel Zakin had to do away with this terrible thing that could occur. What could occur? The woman would marry with a get that's not a good get. In other words, she wasn't, there never was in the sina of the get, because even though the get was a kosher get, it was not given by the Baal, because the Baal went ahead and he cut off the nesina of the shliach. The nasnam biyada, there's no nesina over here. Memela, she was never divorced. She thinks she's divorced. She's going to go and get married, and loyolenu chas v'shalom, you can have mamzerim. To avoid that, Rabbi Gamliel Zakin said, you can't do this anymore. In order to mevatel a get, you yourself have to go, or send the shliach to go. It's not, you can't take the easy way out to go to a bezdin in another locale and get rid of it. That's the gesera of Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish's bar plukta said, "Fnei takonas igunos." What's the takonas igunos? Saballah says the Gemara, Rav Sheshes. He holds like Rav Sheshes, the Amar, b'fnei gimel, in front of 3. Ubei tilsa islay kala. 3 does have a coil, so she's going to know that the get wasn't a get. V'shama, she'll hear. V'yada, and she'll know. V'loy mitzvah, and she won't get married. She won't get married, but her husband's not going to live with her either. Husband's living somewhere else. He's going to go ahead and he really doesn't want to be Mavagadol to get. He really wants to go ahead, as we said yesterday, and emotionally abuse his wife. He wants to be mitzara his wife. So therefore, even though in terms of aguna, she's really still married to this guy, it's not like, she is married, but she's in a state of not being married, because obviously the guy, if he's in another locale, he's not so happy with her. So, you know what? In order to make it more difficult for him to emotionally abuse his wife, he himself is going to have to go. He himself is going to have to send the shliach, and he's going to have to be mevatel the shliach. So it's going to make it more difficult. So to ensure that he's not going to be mevatel the get, we did away with the easy way to be mevatel the get. Again, there's a tremendous discord over here. They're not happily married. He sent out a get. He wants to divorce her, and then he says, 1 second, let us stew a little bit. So I'll go to Bezdin. You know what I'll do? I'll be mavatel get. She's an aguna, and aguna not aguna, right? She's legally married, but not in a happy state. better her off, what? Receiving the get and finishing this marriage and get on with her life. The husband won't let her because he has an easy way of making her miserable, going to Besdin and being mevatel the get. So what do we want to do, according to Reish Lakish? We want to make me tikkun olam that she should not be in this state of unrest. Let's make it that if he wants to mevatel it, he's going to have to work at it. Like he himself going, sending a shliach and getting to the shliach before the shliach gets to her. And therefore, if it's such a pain for him to do, he's going to let the get go through, and therefore she will not be, quote unquote, an aguna. That's the takana of Reish Lakish. Okay, so the takana of Machloikas and Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, totally in the Machloikas of Nachman and Rav Sheshes. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion, like Rav Nachman, you only need two. Since you have two, there's no publicity. She's going to think that she's really divorced because she received the get. She's going to get married, and she really is not married, still married. Thus, the children from the second marriage will be mamzerim. To avoid this, if they take an oilam, not to have mamzerim in the world, Rabbi Gamliel did away with this easy way to nullify a get. Reish Lakish had a whole different reason. He holds like Rav Sheshes that three people, in order to nullify, you have to inform three people. Three people, she will find out that the get's not a get. And we're not worried about mamzerim now because she's not going to get remarried. But Gufa, we do want her to be able to get married because this guy he's not a good guy. He sent the get. He wants to mitzara her. He wants to abuse her emotionally. He'll go ahead and mevatel the get. So therefore, we make it hard for him to mevatel the get in order to facilitate the get going through, being able then therefore to get on with our life. Akanas ikunas like Reish Lakish. Tan Rabbana says the Gemara by Bitloi mevotel. Okay, we have the takana of Rabbi Gamliel. We have this takana that you can't be mevatel in front of Besdin. What happens if you do? What happens if you don't send the shliach? What happens if you don't go? What happens if you go to Besdin after the takana and you mevatel it? Says the Gemara mevotel. Divrei Rabbi. Says Rabbi it works. Says Rabbi it works. Even though the Besdin, Rabbi Gamliel Chatzlakim made a takana, if you're over on the takana, it's still batel. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel loima, ain't yachal, you're not able to. You can't do anything. You can't be mevatel it, and if there's a tanai, you can't go ahead and change it. Jim Kane, because if you could, makoyach Besdin yafer. What power does Besdin have? In other words, if Besdin makes the takana and it goes into effect, and then you say, well, you know what? I'm not going to listen to that kana. Yeah, I'm not going to listen to that kana. And then it works. So what do they accomplish? So therefore, we have machloikas. Therefore, Rabbi says it's batel. Rabbi says it does work, and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel disagrees. Very interesting. This is a father and a son. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is Rabbi's son. Rabbi says the Gemara. Says the Gemara Vaita. Right, the Gemara Kasha. What happened here, guys? What happened here? He went ahead, he sent the get. He's now going and he's saying, this get is batel. According to the mechanics, it's batel. He has to give a get. He's not giving a get. He says the shliach is not a shliach. There's no nesina over here. Were you worried about the power of Besdin? How does Besdin circumvent this? Good, they said you shouldn't do it. But after the fact they said it's done, so what's because we worried about the koyach of Besdin? How can we stop the mitzias of this get working? It shouldn't work. We know we need a nesina by a get. You don't have a nesina. He took away the shliach. He was mevatel the shliach. So Besdin looks bad. Makoyach Besdin Yafa, you're weakening Besdin. You're right. You are weakening Besdin, but still, how does that weakening of Besdin impact and stop this? In other words, mechanically, how does it work? And for the Gemara, I'll tell you how it works. Umi ikemidi the medaraisa bottle gita umishamak hoich bezdin yaf v'shamin reishes is la'alma in called the mekadesh adait the run mekadesh dafginu rabbanel kedushimine. We had it in Yavamis, we had it in Ksubis. When a person gets married, what does he say? Look at that little toisus. Kol mekadesh adait the rabban mekadesh l'kach oimim b'shas kedushin kedas Moshe v'Yisrael, according to the laws of Moshe and Yisrael. Okay. But you're telling the world that when you get married, Bezdin has the power to nullify your marriage. Bezdin has the power to nullify your marriage. So pshat over here is the following: the get is taka batal. The get is batal, but the reason why she could get married is because she doesn't need a get. You know why she doesn't need a get? Because her kedushin was nullified. Again, your kasher is, how could this get be a good get if you have a shliach going who's not a shliach? You have no nesina. And for the Gemara, you're right. The get is a good get. The nesina is not a good nesina. However, the marriage did not require a get because the Rabbanan nullified the marriage using the power of Kol the Mekadesh Adai to the Rabbanan Mekadesh. And says the Gemara. The Gemara always brings this in. That's very good if you mekadesh with kesef, right? So in other words, if you mekadesh with kesef, they'll go ahead and they'll say the money you gave is a matana. They'll go ahead and they'll be mafka one, maybe hefker best and hefker. They have the koyach with money, right? To go ahead, what kadesh b'via ma'ikla meima. How can they nullify a marriage that was what? That was consummated with bia, that the kedushin was bia? Says Gemara, Shavi Rabbanan Bilas Bilas Nus. The Chachamim were what? They made the Bila Bilas Nus. Retroactively, it was a Bilas Nus, but Inachanam Yinova married. So therefore, okay, Machloikis, again, it's important to notice Machloikis. Rabbi says that Bittul Mevotel. If it's Batel, you're not supposed to do this. Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken said, no. But if you do it, it's Batel, which makes a lot of sense. In other words, you shouldn't have done it, but you did it. You stopped the action from taking place. According to Shimon Gamliel, it's not mevutal. She is divorced, and it comes out for the Gemara. How can she be divorced? With the Raisa, she's not divorced. It's not a gebittel. And for the Gemara, she's not divorced because she was never married. I always wonder, guys, would she be considered a gerusha? Could she marry a kohen? You understand? If you nullify the marriage, they were never married, could she marry a kohen? It's a good kasha, right? You hear my thought process?
How can you be a grusha if you were never married in the first place?
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's my thought process, right? How can you be a grusha if you never married in the first place? Right? It's interesting. Apparently.
What if they had children? Does it affect
a pugum? If they have children, at worst they'd be a pugum. They wouldn't be a mamza. You know, it's a pugum. That's a pugum is kasher v'yasha. Now, I just asked another question. How come the Gemara never takes into consideration shtar? They always ask this. We know there's three ways to get married: kesef, shtar, or bia. So we deal with kesef and we deal with bia. What about shtar? So I would think that I heard that it's if you can go do away with the kesef, certainly you could go ahead and do away with the shtar. You can make it a shtar matana. What does the shtar say? I'm giving you the shtar. So the shtar we shtar matana. You know, it's like once they can fool it. Once it's in their power, right? Then there's nothing it's a physical thing. The kesef's a physical thing. Shtar is a physical thing. Our problem was bia. What do you do with that? So the bia, we're gonna make a bia listeners. Okay, just but for the sake of the Gemara, further, I think it's important to get straight. What does Rabbi hold? Guys? Bittul mefutal. It's done. You shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have gone to Bezdin. You did it. What does Shimon Gamliel hold? It's not done. It's still what? It's bittul. It's not mevutal, right? It's Rabbi Shimon, he's not able to mevatel it, right? He's not able to mevatel because my koyach bezdin yafa, right? He's able to. Okay. Now says Tan Rabbanan, a second din, guys, a second din, another machlokes between Rabbi and Shimon Gamliel, and we have to know. We have to again focus on this because the Gemara later on is going to say the halacha is like one of them in one, and not like them in the other. So we have to be aware of what we're discussing. So again. The first machlokes whether bittul mevutal after the gesera of Rabbi Gamliel, and the second machlokes. Turn Rabbanan. Amula Sarah, you say to 10 people. Now you didn't say kulchem. Just remember in early Gemara, guys. If you say kulchem, they all have to sign. Remember, they all have to sign on the get. They all have to be there. You didn't say kulchem. Turn Rabbanan. Amula Sarah, kisvu get ishti. Write a get to my wife. Yachol levatel zeh shaloi b'fnei zeh. So you're able to mevatel zesh lev. They said divrei Rebbe. So let's get the mitzias. It's 10 people. You say to Reuven and Shimon, you are no longer in the ballpark. You are no longer in the ballpark. So they're out of the ballpark. Good. But you still have 8 other people who can accomplish the goal. Good. You don't need all of them to do it. You didn't say kulchem. You said to 10. If I take 2 guys out, I still have 8 left over. If I take 4 out, I still have 6 left over. But those 4 people are out. And those 2 people are out. That's Rebbe. No, you can't be mevatel one not in front of the other, right? You can't be mevatel one not in front of the other. You have to be mevatel them what? All in front of each other. You have to mevatel them in front of each other. But my kamiflagi, be'edis shebatla miksasa batla kula. It edis that you mevatel what? Batla kula. Kamiflagi. Rebbe Savar edis shebatla miksasa. Rebbe's of the opinion edis shebatla miksasa loy batla kula. If you mevatel 2 of them, you're not mevatel all of them. So therefore, I can be mevatel 2. The other 8 don't know what, they don't have to know anything about these 2. They're all viable shluchim. The Oslo Hanach, any one of the other 8 who go, Kasve Viole, they write a get and give it to her. Lichnu B'liyasu. It's not a problem. In other words, I'm not worried about any avla coming out of here. I have 10 shluchim. I took away 2. The shlichus of going ahead and be mevatel the get will go ahead and be what? Or the other one. So I'm not worried about anything bad coming out of it. If I want to move, I can be mevatel 2, and the other ones are still around. Because okay. Now, what's the other way around? Now let's do it outside. Rav Shimon Gamliel says you have to be mevatel all 10 in front of each other. You know what he holds? He holds Eidish Shabbat Mitzasa but lakula. So if you mevatel 2 and the other 8 don't know, then they're going to go ahead and give the get. But the get was batel. So in order to go ahead and stop this from taking place, what do? It has to be in front of all of them to ensure that the get won't be given. So that will be a way of explaining the machlokes. Again, one more time. Rebbe is of the opinion that you can be mevatel zeh shloi b'fnei zeh. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is of the opinion you cannot. What's the svaras machlokes? Rebbe holds that eidish shabbat l'miktasoi loy bat l'kula. So therefore, those that are batel are out, the other ones are still in. If they write the get and give it, great, it's a good get. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Rebbe says no. Eidish shabbat l'kula bat l'kula. Now, guys, be aware. This is not eidis. This is shlichus. We're saying the same concept that just like eidis is bat l'kula, shlichus also. If you mevatel part of the shlichus, you mevatel all of them, right? We use the same concept. So let Reb Shimon Gamliel, you got a big avla over here. If I out of my 10 shluchim, if I take out 2, I don't have 8 left over. I have nothing left over. And if they give the get, they're giving a batel get, and then you're going to have the problem of tikkun oilam. Yeah, good. So therefore, Reb Shimon Lisava eidish shabal mitzase bat l'kula. The other 8 do not know that the get is batel. Bi'ozla v'kosnu b'yov v'shari eisha ishla alma, and it'll be matter nation to the rest of the world. So the ibay sema the kuli alma eidish shabal mitzase loy bat l'kula. Good. In other words, it's not a Rebbe Gamliel problem. It's not a problem of Tikkun Olam. It's nothing to do with that. Because Eid Shevat L'Mekasler loy but L'Kula. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would say that that the other eight are still viable shluchim. So therefore, why does he say you need zeh b'fnei zeh? And what's the reason? It's a reason of strength, right? V'hachu haine time with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel ksavar milsa demisavda ba'apei asara, a matter that was conceptualized. It was made in front of 10. Tzricha be'asara lemishlafa. You need 10 to go ahead and undo it. In other words, it's not a gezerah of what might happen. It's a deal in, well, you did it in front of 10. In order to go ahead and remove it, it also has to be in front of 10. It also has to be in front of 10. Okay, so I'll slide again. So, we had one machlokes between Rabbi and Shimon Gamliel regarding a get being bottled after the gezerah of Rabbi Gamliel Hasakein. Says Rabbi, it's bottled. Says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, it's not bottled. And now we have a second machlokes. You say to 10 people, go ahead, shluchim, you make them shluchim to go ahead and give a get. Can you be mevatel zesh leibifnei zeh? Says Rabbi, you could. Says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, you can't. What's the svaras of machlokes? Two suggestions. One, like Rabbi, therefore, even if you mevatel 2, the other 8 can do the job. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is over and therefore you mevatel 2, you mevatel all 10, and therefore you have a big problem you're worried about. They're going to go ahead, give the get, and she'll marry with a bottle get. Another interpretation to explain Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is that no, everyone holds loy but lekula. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel say you need zeh shleim b'fnei zeh, because since you created the shlichus in front of 10, you have to remove it in front of 10. That's the machlokes between in how to explain the machlokes. Says the Gemara Vayta. Iboilahu, kulchem mahu. You said kulchem. Now, what does kulchem guys create? You need zeh bifnei zeh according to l'chayra, according to everybody. Kulchem, you're all one shlichus. So now, kulchem mahu. Time of Shem Gamliel mishum de kasavar eid shebal mitzasla but lekula bahani kivin the amalahu kulchem leimatzi kasre v'yohev. What are you worried about, guys? In the first case, you're worried about eid shebal mitzasla but lekula. If you mevatel 2, the other 8 are going to give it. Over here, if you said kulchem, you don't have to worry about that, because this get is only a get what if all 10 are signed. If all 10 are signed. So you could be mevatel zeh shalei b'fnei zeh because there's nothing to worry about. You can't go ahead and think that the other 8 are going to give the get because they know that the other 2 are not in the ballpark. So therefore you would be able to mevatel zeh shalei b'fnei zeh according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, if that's his svara of eid shabbat mitzaslei but lekula. However, Aydilma time Rabbi Shimon Gamliel mishavat the kasavar kol milsa the misavda b'apei be'asara. Anything that was done in front of 10, the hilkach afilu kulchem nami. Even kulchem, you would need a mevatel in front of all 10 together. So now, the Gemara, what does the Gemara do, fellas? It says the following: depending on the svara of Shimon Gamliel, we have an interesting shaila by kulchem. What was the svara of Shimon Gamliel? 2 possibilities. One, and therefore you have a concern if you mevatel 2, the other 8 are going to give it. That doesn't apply when you say kulchem, because kulchem, you need all 10. So I couldn't be mevatel 2, and we're not worried about the other 8. However, if the svara of Shimon Gamliel is the lattice svara, what's the lattice svara? That since you created this with 10 together, kulchem, to remove it, you need kulchem there. You would not be able to mevatel 2 not in front of the other 8. Why? Because it's not 10 together. So nafkamina by kulchem would be depending upon the svara of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. That's what the Gemara's concern is. Pashma, let's be paisha the shaila. L'shnayim. If you say to 2 people, Tanu get ishti, give a get to my wife. Yachal levatel zeh shalei b'fnei zeh de Rabbi. Says Rabbi, I can mevatel 1, not in front of the other. In other words, if you say to 2, You made them shluchim together. Good. So I can mevatel zeh shloi b'fnei zeh. Guys, if two is like kulchem, right? You need both together. Now, 1 second. You need two together. You can't go ahead and write a get without two people. So, if you're telling me that Rishim Gamliel does not allow, right? He does not allow you to go ahead and be mevatel zeh shloi b'fnei zeh. It must be he holds the svara of kulchem is because of since you made it in front of 10, you need 10 to give it away. Again, it's just a numbers game over here. You told 10 people to write a get. You told 2 people to write a get. We want to know by 10 people what Rishim Gamliel hold. Can you mevatel zeh shloi b'fnei zeh? So by 2 people, he says you can't. So if he says by 2 people you can't, it must be he holds by 10 people you can't, because it's the same thing. So you would need zeh b'fnei zeh, and therefore that would tell us the reason for Rishim Gamliel is not because Eideh shebat l'miktsasa bat l'kula. Rather, the reason is anything that's made in front of that certain number that would have you need that not number. In this case, it's 2 versus the 10. You would need to remove it. So we could be poisher hashayla. V'hashnayim lechi kulchem dami. Shnayim 2 is like kulchem. Upligi and Rishim Gamliel argues. Ravashi, if it was speaking about Eideh Kesiva, Hachanami, Reb Shimon will be Moida, that you would be able to mevatel zeh shloi b'fnei zeh, right? Because he holds Eideh shebat l'miktsasa, bat l'kula, and you're not concerned by one doing the job because he can't. Hachanami, Hachamay askinon be'edei haylacha. We're here speaking about over here the Eidim to bring the get. Now, the aim to bring the get, you need 2 people in mevatel. Let's see Rashi, guys. Ve'edei halacha. The hay tnu de kamar, when he said tnu over here, it doesn't mean to write. Hach l'shnayim haget nitin lehem liyos shluchim. In other words, we thought that they were given a shlichus to write the get. They weren't given a shlichus to write the get. There was an existing get. They were making shluchim to bring the get. Again, in the raya, we wanted to say they were aiming to write the get. No. These are an existing get, and they're aidim l'shluchim to bring the get. So, right. The hacha ki ka'amar lechad ozil idach t'layada umasala. Because over here now, if you're going to tell one, right, that you can't bring it, and the other one doesn't know, he's going to bring it. If we she'ein ze eideh shiyu shneim tzrichim liyosham, you don't need 2 over here. El shlichus lo yada de bat la shlichusa de shlichus shebat mitzas la bat la kula. The kihechi de bat li lahai. So very geschmack, guys. Outside, you want to know what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel needs zeh b'fnei zeh to be mevatel? When he makes these guys shluchim to bring the get, he's not saying, I need you physically both to bring the get. I'm making you shluchim to make sure the get gets there, right? But he made the shlichus as 2. What happens? The first guy comes and he says to him, the get is bottled. The second guy doesn't know the get is bottled. He's going to go ahead and give the get, and you're going to have the tikkun olam, you're going to have the problem. To avoid that, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, what? To avoid that, what do you need? You need to go ahead, and they have to vote together to ensure they don't bring the get. But you can't bring me a raya about kulchem, what he would hold by kulchem, whether you can mevatel one in front of the other. Maybe you need 10, maybe not. The case of Shnayim is speaking about Eideh halacha. It's not speaking about Eideh ksiva writing on the get. It's speaking about Eideh bringing the get. Since the shlichus is 1, they made them both shlichus to bring the get. It was going to mevatel one, the shlichus shebat muktsasa bat l'kula. Therefore, you need 2 together, and it has no bearing on a shayla by Eideh ksiva. A raya that it's speaking about Eideh halacha is from the sefer of this brisa. Hachanami mistabra to say it's speaking about Eideh halacha and not Eideh ksiva. The Tani sefer lezeh b'fnei atzmai, right? If he said this one, you're a shliach to bring the get, and he said to another one, you are shliach to bring the get. You're able to mevatel one not in front of the other. You know why? Because even if you mevatel one, the other guy is a viable shliach, because you didn't make them together. If it's speaking about Eidi Alacha Shapir, look at Rashi, first white line, Shapir. You don't need two people to right. You don't need them all as one, right? You don't need them all as one, because after all they are shluchim, right? And therefore Eli, so it's shap makes sense. Eli am be'edei ksiva. If you're going to tell me it's speaking about edei ksiva, mim mitztarfei, can you go ahead and have 1/8 sign one and another time another 8 side ton? You need to have them sign at the same time. Amar ein edis mitztarefes ad shiru shneim ke'echad. And edis can not be made unless they're at the same time. So we want to bring a raya from the fact that he said to this one by itself, and this one by itself, he's able to mevatel it. If this one by himself, this one himself is speaking about Eidei Alacha, it makes sense. But if it's speaking about Eidei Ksiva, it doesn't make sense, because you need them together at the same time. So it's a raya to the Reisha, where Rabbi Shimon Gamliel will require them both to be there, is because since the Shlichus was made as one, you would need to be mevatel as one. Because if you mevatel Zeh Shlei B'fnei Zeh, and the other person doesn't know, you're going to have tsaris. Says the Gemara, you have no raya. Maybe Dilma Reb Yeshua ben Karcha. Maybe the Mishnah is according to Reb Yeshua ben Karcha, the Brisa, and Yeshua ben Karcha is of the opinion by Eidei Kasiva they don't have to see each other. Right? They don't have to see each other. If you look at Rashi, 3 lines down where it gets wide, Reb Yeshua ben Karcha the Pligi Love and Perek Sheni Ksubis, he argues and he says Sanhedrin V'Amar Afilu B'Zach Hazeh, they can sign even one after the other. Okay, let's go over what we have so far today. We have a dual machloikis between Rabbi and Shimon Gamliel in 2 venues. One, if you were over on the takana of Rabbi Gamliel Azaken and you were mevatel the get in a bezdin when you shouldn't have, is it a good bittul? Says Rabbi, it's a good bittul. Says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, it's not a good bittul. We have a second machloikis. If you tell 10 people to go ahead and write a get, can you mevatel zeh shlei b'fnei zeh? Says Rebbe, you could. Says Reb Shimon Gamliel, you can't. So those are 2 machlokas in. We're going to have a Gemara now that says the halacha is like Rebbe in one and like Reb Shimon Gamliel in the other, but we don't know which is which, and we're going to try to figure out where that halacha. Says the Gemara. Amr Reb Shmuel bar Yehuda, Shamis minei Reb Abba Tarti. I heard from Reb Abba, who piske halachis, Chadek Rebbe, one like Rebbe, the Chadek Reb Shimon Gamliel, and one he held like Reb Shimon Gamliel. Lo yadana, but I do not know Haike Rebbe, Haike Reb Shimon Gamliel. Which one is which? Again, in our 2 machloikasin, whether bitul mevotel or zer shlei b'fnei zeh. So I'm Rabbi Yosef. Now, important. Let's go, guys. In the ratio, what was the svara of Shimon Gamliel? Why can't you mevatel a get in bezdin? Because in Cain, Makoyach Bezdin Yafa, right? That was we have to know the svara. The svara of Shimon Gamliel was, but you're just going ahead and you're taking away the Koyach of Bezdin. In Cain, Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. So the Chiyasar of Dimi Amamaisa v'Asa Rebbe Kedibri Chachamim. There's Maisa Rebbe did like the words of the Chachamim. Amal Lefon of Rebbe Parta Benoisha Belazar Ben Parta Ben Benoisha Ben Parta Hagadol in Cain Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. So what is the Meister that was speaking about over here? Right, what is the Meister was speaking about over here? Is speaking about a Meister where they made Dayanim made an evaluation. Shimon owes Reuven money. Shimon has property or Taltalin. The Chachamim go ahead and evaluate, and they blow it in the evaluation. They blow it. They made more than a shtus, more than a sixth of the, So it must have been metaltal then, because they ain't shtus in bekarka, and they blow it. So what's the din? Okay, so what's the din? So we have machloikas over there. We have machloikas over there. What exactly the din is? Okay. If you look at Rashi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom, kidivrei, right? Divrei chachamim, shehayu oimrim shum hadayonim, an evaluation of dayonim, shepichsei shtus, that they devalued it less, they blew it by, said it was worth less than a sixth, or yasir shtus, so it's worth more. Mechron bottle, the mecher is bottle, okay? The mecher is bottle. That's what that's what they said. So now, back in the Gemara now. So there was a Maisa that took place, and Rabbi did like the words of the Chachamim. Now the Chachamim, they said the mecher is bottle, it's gone. So I'm the fun of Rabbi. If you're going to say that it's mecher's bottle, so what about the power of Bezdin, who made this evaluation in the first place? The Chazer Rebbe, Rebbe then changed his mind, and he did like Rav Shimon Gamliel, and therefore they held that the mecher is kayim. Good. And if the mecher is kayim, so what do we see, fellas? That we go ahead and follow the concept of what? Of makoyach bezdin yafa. So now, using that svara, let's go back to the psak, right? The psak that Shmuel by Yehuda heard from Rav Abba, and you don't know when Rebbe had charata. So which one we paskin like Rebbe, which one paskin like Shimon Gamliel? It must be in the first one we paskin like Shimon Gamliel, because even here Rebbe is moida in the koyach of makoyach. Rebbe himself is moida by the shuma dayonim of makoyach bezdin yafa. So he would, the halacha would be therefore that if you went ahead and vatal a get shaloi in bezdin, that it would be not bottle. Of course, them came makoyach bezdin yafa, and therefore we would paskin. So if the halacha is like Rebbe Shimon Gamliel in the first case, the halacha would be like Rebbe in the latter case, that you could be mevatel of the 10 who have to write the get, you could be mevatel zesh lebsnei zeh. How did that cheshbon work, guys? A little convoluted, right?
It doesn't make a difference that in this case, Basin really made a mistake.
Right?
No,
they made a psak. They came up with a psak.
But the psak was an error.
Again, they Bezdin Shuma Dayan, this was the Shum, and I don't know. You're saying it's a toys. They didn't say. They said Mechach Hayim. Usually, by I know we say it's a Mechach toys. Over here, it's a Shum. It's not a sale. It's a Shum. It's a valuation, and therefore that's the svar of the one who argued. But the bottom line is, if this is what Bezdin said, they said. So let's go through the Cheshbon again, guys. Right? We're going to do the fingers again. Right? Here's the fingers. The first one and the second one. The first one is, this is the one of my koyach bezdin yafa. So if we could prove that Rebbe agrees with the concept of my koyach bezdin yafa, it must be that psak would go with this person, and that's what we're doing. We're using the Shuma Dayanim to say that my koyach bezdin yafa, and Rebbe would agree with that. If that's the case, when Shmuel Bar Yehuda heard from Rebbe, it must be that lacha is like Rav Shimon Gamliel in this case. Therefore, in the latter case of the Asara with the Mevatel Shlem Fnei lacha must be like Rebbe. That's the cheshbon of the Gemara. The Chazer Rebbe v'asakrib Shim Gamliel, u'midahokrib Shim Gamliel, hach the latter one of being Mevatel Zeshlem Fnei Zeh Karebi. Rav Yoshia Dimin Usha Sava Chada Karebi, the Chada Krib Shim Gamliel. After Yeshua Diminusha Saba Choda Kreb Choda Kreb Shem Galil. Dama Rabba Rav Chana Kamei Sabi Habi Kamei Rabbi Yeshua. There were 5 elders in front of Rabbi Yeshua Diminusha. Asahu Gabe Gavra Kamei. The Ashkelei Gita Al Karkan. They forced him to give a get against his will. They forced him against. They can force a person. So Amalahu Zilu. He told them, "Go match for me. Go hide. Now go hide." Now, my hava, right? My hava, ela shmamina, right? That they told him to go hide, right? That you shouldn't be mevatel any of them. Guys, go hard. You shouldn't be mevatel any of them. The isal kedaitach idach nami Reb Shimon Gamliel, and if you hold the other one is like Reb Shimon Gamliel, lamalhu at murei. Why would you have to hide? Just live the ru avdure. In other words, if you hold like Rebbe, that you have to be you have to you could be mevatel zeh shalei b'fnei zeh, right? Then you have to hide that they shouldn't find any of you. But if you hold like Reb Shimon Gamliel that you have to divide all together, why do you even have to hide all of them? Even if you hide one of them, it should do the job, because after all, once one's not there, it's all finished. So when he told these 5 people to hide, so he said the following one more time. If he holds like Rebbe that you could be mevatel one in front of the other, when you hide, why do you hide all of them? Why would you have to hide? The vaju of dure, just go ahead and separate a little bit, because as long as you don't know all together, it's zesh lebifnei zeh, then you don't have to worry. The loch is like Rabbi by both, that bitnum mevutel, and you could be mevatel zesh lebifnei zeh. But less like Rav Nachman Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. If that's the case, it must be he doesn't hold the Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. In the Rishon, in the first case, that's the svara why Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said that it's not bottle. When Rabbi says it's bottle, what about he must be he doesn't hold Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. I've Rav Nachman Mishmuel and Aleph. Yisayim Mishmuel Lachlich Minich Se'avim. Yisayim are coming to go ahead and divide in their father's estate. Bezdin Mamidon Apotropis. Bezdin will go ahead and set an apotropis, sometime someone to take care of the estate. Ubar lehem chelik yafa, and they would choose for their mat. The apotropis, every apotropis would be mechalik a chelik yafa, right, and make it equal. She says they will all be equal. Hikdilu, if when they get older yachal limchais, they're able to be meicha. Right? When they get older, they can't be meicha. They can't go ahead and complain that they're not happy. Then came Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. So you see, Rav Nachman does hold the Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. So Fred the Gemara, Rav Nachman holds the Makoyach Bezdin Yafa by the case of Yisayimim. Why didn't he hold the Makoyach Bezdin Yafa by get? Then saying that if you mevatel get, it should not be bottled. So the Gemara makes a chilik between Mammon and Issa. Hasan and Maina over there, it's Mammon. We'll say Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. Hachi Surah Mashenkin by get, which is the Nevissa, we will not say Makoyach Bezdin Yafa. Have a good day, everybody.